And I would tell the students, I fill out the lowest grade each 6 weeks, no questions asked. So if a student comes in, Mr. Hovind, I didn't get my homework done. Could I have an extra day? I would say, hey, don't worry about it. I fill out the lowest grade. But if they do that every week, of course, they're only going to get one thrown out, and it quickly puts the pressure back on them. So the idea of filling out the lowest grade, no questions asked, I think was great. Everybody has a bad day. And I think if most teachers or adults had to live under the system they make the students live under, they would crack up and go nuts. Most adults or parents couldn't handle that kind of intolerance that many teachers show their students. Give them a break, man. Every 6 weeks, fill out the lowest grade. Now, only one. And if it's a test grade and counts 5 times, only one of them gets counted off. If they got a 0 on a test, well, they still got 4 zeros instead of 5 or something like that. But dropping the lowest grade. Another idea that I did is I tried to very frequently give bonus points on quizzes and tests so that the students could accumulate extra points. I didn't try to keep track of points as far as, this test is worth 18 points and this quiz is worth 2 points. I made everything based on a 100 scale and averaged them when I was done. That's simpler for me to take care of. So I would give bonus questions. If we were supposed to read chapter 16 in biology, and we've been studying it that week, there are always some things in the text that are interesting to know, but are not essential, and you're not going to put them on the test. I would try to pick out some of those facts to be bonus questions. We would not review that when we went through what's going to be on the test. We wouldn't review those particular items, but it's something they would have picked up had they read the chapter carefully. And so the bonus question would be worth 5 extra points. Therefore, the test is worth, they could get 105 on the test or quiz. And I would write down 105 in the grade book. That way, if a student did real well all 6 weeks, and he got all the bonus questions also, he may have enough bonus points that he could get 2 zeros and still get an A or a 100 in my class. He could simply say, hey, I don't want to do my homework tonight. I'm going to take the 0. I've got enough bonus points. He says, oh, but Hovind, that's terrible. Well, you stop and think that through for a while before you say that's terrible. I think that's a great reward to encourage productivity and encourage students to go the extra mile. And you can ask kids that took classes of mine, they remember things 20 years later that they learned. The object is to teach them. That's the object. You want them to learn the material. So we tried to do different things to do that. Filling out the lowest one allowed them to skip a homework assignment if they had enough bonus points, or they were going to fill out the lowest grade, and they consistently kept their other grades up. Let's see, we talked about the grading system. Another advantage of always, the kids know what their grade is, and you know how many times it counts. I'd say, students, this test counts 3 times. I encourage them in the front of their book to write down every grade they got, and they could always average it up. They never had to ask me, hey, what's my grade so far? How am I doing in this class? I'd say, you ought to know. You got them written down. You could average it up whenever you want. The kids always knew what grade to expect. They had it themselves. It eliminated all those questions of how am I doing this 6 weeks? I would say, well, you take a look at your list. Keep in mind, I'm going to fill out the lowest grade and average it up yourself. And they soon learned, I'm not going to answer that question, kid. If you don't keep track of it yourself, don't come ask me, because I wouldn't. I told them at the beginning, I won't answer questions, how are you doing this 6 weeks? I won't stop in the middle and average your grade for you. I've got plenty of other things to do. You keep track of it if you want to know. And most of them did, and it worked out really well. If they said, Brother Hovind, my homework's in my locker. Can I go back to my locker and get it? Or it's not quite done yet, or can I turn it in later today? I always said, no problem, fine. But I'm going to write down in pencil, I'm going to write down a 0 in the grade book. It's not here. I am not going to worry about it again. As far as I'm concerned, you got a 0. If you don't like that 0, if you turn it in later today, or if you want to go back to your locker and get it, if it's turned in today, even if it's 1 minute late because you had to go back to your locker and get it, I will take it, but it's 10 points off. If you turn it in tomorrow, it's 20 points off. If you turn it in the next day, it's 30 points off. I take off 10 points each day until it's not worth turning it in eventually. You remember to turn it in. I have already forgotten about it. It's off my mind. It doesn't bother me at all. You have a 0 on this homework assignment. The pressure is on you. The pressure is not on me. I enjoy life. We're going to have a wonderful time. I'm going to teach this class, and I'm never going to worry about that homework assignment. You have a 0 for it, but you're welcome to turn it in late if you'd like. But you remember it, not me. Again, keeping the pressure where it belongs so the teacher doesn't get old before her time or his time. Calculators is another interesting one. Since I taught math and science, People argue about this one too, and I've thought about it and seen the results, trying it both ways. I am convinced that calculators ought to be mandatory equipment from 7th grade on. You say, well, they won't learn to multiply and divide. Look, probably none of you know how to fix a wagon wheel. There are probably very few people that teach in school that know how to hitch a team of horses to a wagon. It's obsolete information. You don't need to know that. There probably aren't very many people that can extract the cube root of a number longhand. Calculators and computers do that for us. It's unnecessary. It's a waste of time. And I see many people with high school students and junior high, 7th, 8th grade, making their kids work out all of the problems longhand. I mean, multiplication, subtraction, division. I say, come on, give the kid a calculator. But, in 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, you need to learn how to multiply, divide, add, subtract, keep your columns straight. That's true. Okay, now you've learned it. Now go on to something new. Now it's time to learn algebra, geometry, trig, and I have always felt that calculators should be required from a certain age on. You don't need to waste their time multiplying or dividing numbers out longhand. Now, occasionally you may want to have a refresher course and have a test, and make sure they still remember, like once a year. But for the bulk of the year, let the kid use the calculator. That's just been my philosophy. There's no sense making them do things the hard way. It's obsolete. I think we're dating ourselves, and the Amish, have gone from the buggies to, okay, you can get a car, but it's got to be black and no chrome, and that's what we're doing with the calculators. I mean, come on, it doesn't matter. Get one and let the kid use it. Quizzes. I mentioned earlier that I try to give a quiz every day. There's a reason for that. I want to make sure the students are paying attention. Lots of times my quizzes would be one question. Okay, boys and girls, take out a piece of paper, put your name at the top, and put today's date. Oh, we're having a quiz? Yep, we're having a quiz. Oh, no, I didn't study. It's okay, no problem. Question number 1. Have you read the homework for today? Yes or no? All right, pass your papers in, please. And go on with the lesson. One question quiz. You get 100 or you get a 0. Oftentimes, at the end of the class period, I would tell the students, okay, kids, today we're going to discuss page 202 through 207, and we're going to have a quiz at the end of the hour today. And here's what we're going to be talking about. And that way, during the class time, they're paying close attention. And I would tell them what's on the quiz. I said, kids, look, I've got 5 questions. You should have read this for homework. We're going to review it. For instance, the characteristics of a mammal. List 3 of the characteristics of a mammal. That's going to be a quiz question I'm going to ask you in about 45 minutes. And now let's discuss that. What are the characteristics of a mammal? And the kids would discuss it. And they're all thinking, yeah, I got to know this. Yeah, okay. And they concentrate better. And I despise trick questions. I tried to make all of my questions just as obvious, and you either know it or you don't know it. If I said, I'm going to ask you what are the characteristics of a mammal, list 3 of them. At the end of the class, we would have a quiz, 5 questions maybe, and that would be the question I told them it was going to be, and it was. But then I might say, now, for bonus, list some of the other characteristics that are mentioned in the book, and you can get 4 points bonus for each one you can name. And that made them, really, those that studied harder got rewarded. They earned some bonus points. But by doing a quiz almost every day, you get an advantage of keeping their attention. You also have the advantage of many, many grades, and it dilutes down any bad grades they get. If you've got 30 grades in a grading period, a 0 doesn't affect that very much. If you've only got 5 grades, a 0 affects it dramatically. So the advantage of lots of little grades is really helping the student realize, hey, it's only one bad grade. I blew it this time. I didn't get my homework. I mean, kids are awful busy these days, and you need to be tolerant of that. So between throwing out the lowest grade and having lots of grades where they're kind of diluted down a little bit and allowing bonus points, the pressure was not on the students so much. They knew, hey, if you pay attention and listen in Mr. Hovind's class, you can get an A in there. All you got to do is just pay attention. It's not hard and no trick questions, but quizzes and lots